Chairs Forum this morning, and we've got some more meetings happening with different iwi, particularly around weather-related, coming up very shortly. So but with that, happy to take any questions you may have.
Is this an anti-Māori government?
No, not at all. This is a government that actually wants to see outcomes for Māori improve, and a lot of our conversations with iwi leaders, over the course, actually right from the formation of government, have actually been about how do we do that together. And that was again our conversation today, is that there's really a big alignment about wanting to work together and how we can work together. We've got a lot of work to do, but we're making some good progress on a number of areas that we want to continue to accelerate.
And how was that meeting this morning with the iwi leaders? I know you've got more this afternoon, but how were you received and what was discussed?
Oh, look, it was incredibly positive and very, very constructive. And again, we've got, we as a national party believe very strongly in localism and devolution. It's very consistent with mana motuhake. We talk a lot about all the work that we've been doing to lift health outcomes for Māori, the work we're doing to improve law and order outcomes for Māori. Economics is a big part of it, particularly about iwi participation and infrastructure development and investment, and obviously educational outcomes. And so those are the sorts of things that we want to do as a government, and lo and behold, iwi want to do exactly the same thing to advance their people as well. So there's really good alignment, and we've got some of it going well. There's more for us to do to turn up the volume on all of those areas.
Would you say your meeting with the Iwi Chairs was interrogative?
No, I'd just say it was very constructive and very positive. I've been to Iwi Chairs Forum in different formats over a number of years now, and I thought this was the best one that I'd participated in. It was very positive. We had a very good dynamic, which we'd used once before, of just going around the 6 different sub-regions of the country and actually hearing the questions that they wanted to pose to Nicola and I were together, and I had 12 national ministers that were there as well, and I think they were very positive engagements.
Was it combative?
No, not at all. No.
Tama Potaka says it was both those things.
No.
Actually, what I said was politics can be combative and politics can be contentious, and certainly on the tables I was involved in, it was very integrative. Of course, iwi leaders may treat the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister a bit better than me.
Well, what I'd say is it's direct, right? But we're direct too.
They were asking questions.
Yeah, asking questions.
They were positive, constructive questions delivered with very good intent, which we were able to address, and I think there was a meeting of minds on many issues.
If I think about we had very good conversations around social investment, for example. Obviously Nicola's Minister for Social Investment, also Minister for Finance, but we're talking a lot about the steps in the process by which we want to accelerate that. And of course that's a huge opportunity for iwi to participate in. We talk a lot about the fact that we've made some very good progress in 2 years of actually connecting iwi into large, either overseas investors, domestic pools of capital here in New Zealand, so they can participate in the large-scale infrastructure. They're some of our most sophisticated, corporate business entities in the country, and so anyone coming to New Zealand who wants to invest in roads, schools, hospitals, whatever, of course wants to partner with iwi, and we've been facilitating a lot of those conversations. But how can more iwi do that? That's the sort of the nature of the conversations we're having.
Will National be standing candidates in the Māori seats this election?
Our board's yet to make a decision on that. As you know, we made a commitment to do 2 at the last election. Obviously for us it's very much a party vote campaign, but we're open to that, and we'll have a further conversation with that in the next few months.
Do you regret them not having a very particularly high list placing after all of that last time around?
Sorry?
They didn't end up with a particularly high list placing after standing in those
Well,
seats.
I think you'd look at our government and say we've got very strong Māori representation, probably of all recent cabinets. We've got very strong Māori representation in cabinet in general. So there's more work for us to do for sure to make sure that we're opening up more opportunity for Māori in the National Party. But we've got more work to do on that, as I think every party does. But I'm proud of the progress we've made.
Are there any skeletons in Peeni Henaday's closet, like your Minister Shane Jones suggests?
Look, I was really surprised by that. I mean, he's been massive for the Labour Party. He's very important to the Labour Party. So, to be honest, I was a bit surprised and shocked by his announcement of his resignation.
Is there anything behind it, though, like Shane?
Not that I'm aware of. I think he's made a great contribution, as I said, to Parliament. But importantly, he's just been massive for the Labour Party. So it was quite surprising to see that something's gone on, obviously. But as to what happened, I don't know. I mean, I'm focused on what we're focused on.
What will your speech focus on tomorrow?
Oh, you have to wait till tomorrow.
Are you going to bring back the same speech?
What's that?
Are you going to bring back the same speech?
but the speech is really about how we work together, because it's actually quite serious stuff. When we've actually been through a really difficult time in this country over the last 5 to 6 years, we want Māori and non-Māori to do well and to do much better. And so how we do that together, we're actually very united on our goals. We all want Māori to do better. We all want New Zealand to do better. And it's how we do that. And I think what's special about New Zealand is, I appreciate as media, you like to try and find all the tension and the histrionics of it all, which is fair enough. But when you look at other countries around the world and just take a step back and reflect on what's happened in the last 12 months in the world, when there are conflicts in other parts of the world and other countries, there is violence that ensues. Here in New Zealand, we have robust debate, we have vigorous discussion. Yes, we can look pretty sporty, but that's good. Isn't that better to have debate, discussion, and conversation than actually conflict?
When you got snapped using the copy and pasting your speech from the year before, when you were last year as Prime Minister, you said, and I'll do it again. Because you said the message from it was important. So are you going to use that same speech again?
You have to wait till tomorrow. But I just made the point I was trying to make is that over 180 plus years now, we've actually been going as a country. Sometimes we go 2 steps forward, 1 step backwards. But the arc of where this country has gone, I think we should be incredibly proud of. It's not perfect, but no country's perfect, no individual's perfect. And so it's really about when you think about statehood and nationhood and how the story and the arc goes. That's what we're focused on over 180 plus years.
You don't think things have changed over the last 2 years?
Sorry, Mikey.
Many Māori believe that this government hasn't done so well when it's come to Te Tiriti o Waitangi or the Māori language. So, I know you say that this isn't an anti-Māori government, but do you accept that some believe that this is an anti-Māori government?
Well, I accept that, certainly, ACT's Treaty Principles Bill was incredibly challenging, and I get that and I understand that, and I've spoken very openly with iwi leaders, through that period and subsequently to that as well. But, again, you sit down in a session like we had today, and what we've got to find is the common ground. And let's focus on the common ground, the 70% that we can agree on, that we can actually move and advance forward. Let's do that. And that's what we are doing on educational outcomes. It's what we are doing on some of the health outcomes. It's what we are doing now on social housing outcomes across the country. So there's a lot more for us to do, but I'm proud of that progress.
And I just make a basic observation, Mikey, which is the most practical way in which the Crown upholds the Treaty of Waitangi is by progressing Treaty of Waitangi settlements, which we've made good progress on under this government.
The treaty is about more than settlements, isn't it? It's about more than property rights.
Sure it is, but it is actually also about making sure that Māori kids are set up for great success to access high-paying jobs in the next 20 years. It is making sure we close the health gaps that we've seen in the healthcare system with Māori health outcomes, and that's why improving under 2-year-old immunisation rates is really important. It's actually when Māori are disproportionately the victims of violent crime, and you've now got 38,000 fewer victims of violent crime. That means that they're safer in their homes, their businesses, their communities. Those are all things that Māori and non-Māori want, but that's what our government's been focused on, is improving outcomes for Māori.
You mentioned the Treaty Principles Bill. Can Māori have confidence that you won't essentially bend the knee to one of your coalition partners on a similar issue like that?
Well, I've said already we've got no time to go back to do anything to do with Treaty Principles Bill whatsoever. Absolutely ruled that out completely.
Of its kind?
Well, I don't know what that could be, but I'm not aware of anything of what that could be. But I'm just saying to you very clearly, as I've said publicly, we ain't doing Treaty Principles Bill.
Lessons learned from your perspective on that?
Oh, it's incredibly challenging. But again, the New Zealand electoral system is what's called MMP. And at the end of an election night, we are charged to try and form a strong and stable government as we can in partnership with other parties. That's the reality of it. And as I said to you at the time, that's the mature MMP environment that we had. We were never supporting it beyond first reading. I acknowledge that it caused tension and frustration and angst for people, and I understand that. But I also said we'd kill it, and we killed it.
Just on critical minerals.
Yeah.
David Seymour says a framework for a potential deal has been seen by cabinet, and he's seen a summary of that. Will you release that summary?
No. What I've said is that look, we want to develop a critical mineral sector, absolutely no doubt about it. We're going to do that on our terms and our brutal national interests. As you'd be aware, the Americans are looking for a supply chain of critical minerals. The Chinese have a very good supply chain, the Americans don't. They're talking to 40 plus countries. We have been participating in those non-binding discussions. We had one of our officials, Bede Corey, there earlier this week as well, with 40 other countries having the same conversations. But no decisions have been made by Cabinet at this point. And there's a few, and we want to, we've got discussions going on, but there's nothing as advanced as a signable contract or deal at this point in time.
Will you commit to having public consultation on any framework for a deal here?
Look, we're yet to work through our full process on it, but I can reassure you.
In that
well, just in the sense of there are some bigger. We're at first level conversations and discussions, as are 40 plus countries around the world with the Americans, and that's very preliminary. It's a bit like AUKUS Pillar 2 in some ways. There's ongoing discussions, but there has been no decisions or anything definitive that we can talk to at this point.
Do you think you've been upfront? Do you think you've been upfront publicly on this? I know you've talked about media speculation being just that, speculation, and now obviously that's advanced, and then we've got the likes of Labor and the Greens saying there have been secret talks and that it's been quite hidden.
No. Look, I mean,
have you represented it fairly publicly?
Yeah, I have. I mean, on my media rounds on Monday, I was asked about reports as it was reported over the weekend, and I just said, look, hey, listen, it's a bit frothy, it's a bit speculative, it's a bit ahead of itself. We haven't made any cabinet decisions yet, and we haven't. And so we are engaging in conversations or discussions, I'd call them, and we'll continue to do so because we definitely want to build out critical minerals. But when we do a deal, we'll do it on our terms, and we need to understand how that deal gets done, as it does with any other arrangements that we make it with other countries.
Minister Willis, are you concerned that the unemployment is continuing to rise?
Well, we are working very hard to get unemployment to come down. What is positive to see is that 15,000 more jobs were created in the past 3 months, that the hours people are working are increasing, that more people are feeling optimistic about getting a job, so are entering that workforce. So that's really positive to see, and what economists are interpreting that data to mean is that we are getting that stabilisation and recovery in the economy. Now, the thing we want to see is that leads to a lower unemployment rate. The unemployment rate is tracking a little bit lower right now than Treasury were forecasting. They thought there could be more people unemployed today than there in fact are, and they are continuing to be confident in their forecast that the number will track lower still.
But some economists were predicting that it was going to stay flat today, and it has in fact risen. I mean, are you not disappointed by that in any way?
I always want to drive that unemployment number lower, absolutely. What I was pleased to see was 15,000 more jobs having been created in the past 3 months. That's 15,000 Kiwis in work who otherwise wouldn't have had work, and that's really great to see.
Is it embarrassing for you as a finance minister and you as a government? This is what you've been promising, getting the economy back on track, and for 4 consecutive quarters.
Well, we've been really open with New Zealanders that there's an order of events that happens. First, you have to get inflation under control. Then you have to get interest rates coming down, then you need growth back in the economy, and then you can actually get the job creation and lower unemployment that we all seek. And when I look at what we've actually done to create jobs, we've taken real action. You know, that fast track list of projects is creating literally thousands of jobs across the country. Labor oppose it. So before I'll take a lecture from Labor on unemployment, I'd like them to come with a single idea to the table rather than just shooting down all of the ideas that we've put forward, that we're acting on, that are actively creating jobs.
And the only other thing I'd say, the only other thing I'd say is that the way forward for New Zealand is not to, having coming into the recovery now, is not to go tax everyone in New Zealand, and that's what Labor and Greens want to do. It was lovely to see the press conference yesterday, but what's clear there is that the alternative is they're going to crank up spending yet again, and when they don't have enough money to borrow, they're going to borrow more money to fund that spending, and then they're going to tax you more for it. So welcome to the world of capital gains tax, wealth tax, death tax, higher income tax, higher corporate tax. That's all coming your way if God forbid, there's a Labor Greens government.
Do you think AI might already be factoring into the unemployment figures? We've seen sort of 270 jobs go at the warehouse head office. So
I think they're quite. I saw the warehouse announcement today, and retail around the world is incredibly challenging, as you know, bricks and mortar store versus retail online shopping, and so that they will make their own decisions around that as their business model works for that. And there's others that are creating hybrid models, between online world and bricks and mortar world. But AI is a huge opportunity for New Zealand to actually to drive higher levels of productivity. What we are doing with our core economic plan is to lift our New Zealand's economic productivity. As I've said in many speeches, we could sugar rush the joint by actually just opening up the immigration taps and cranking up house prices, but you don't create sustainable long-term productivity and wealth. And so AI, the adoption of technology for New Zealand businesses to become more efficient, more effective, and therefore to be able to grow faster, to employ more people, they'll be in different types of roles for sure, is a massive, more opportunity than downside. And I just really would love us to think about it in those terms, because the adoption of technology is one of the 5 things that we know will lift the wealth of all New Zealanders ultimately.
Prime Minister,
sorry.
You've been getting to your question.
Given what happened in Australia last week with their central bank interest rate, given the stubbornness of our inflation rates and a number of economists suggesting that we may see early interest rates rises here, how worried are you that the OCR will go up over the next few months?
Well, Richard, thank you. You're providing some good international context, and I want to be diplomatic because we, of course, admire and have great relationships with our Aussie counterparts, including Jim Chalmers. But the truth is, Australia has higher inflation than New Zealand right now. It has higher interest rates, and it's been far sooner to hike interest rates than New Zealand has. And so actually what the Australian experience shows us is that we are in a relatively better position. We've been very intentional as a government about ensuring our own government spending isn't fueling domestic inflation, and the data tracks on that. We have had some headwinds internationally, as have countries around the world, but actually all of our forecasters across different banks, independent, the Reserve Bank, continue to say that the official cash rate won't be hiked for some time yet.
Well, but it could possibly be hiked before the election, because some people are suggesting it could happen in September.
Well, that will of course be a decision for the independent Reserve Bank. It is the case that as economies grow faster, and I'm really pleased to see the economy growing faster and creating more jobs, that less accelerator, less pump, less priming is needed from the Reserve Bank. At some point, as the economy recovers and growth returns and more jobs are being created, we will see them take their foot off the accelerator.
I think the comparison with Australia is interesting. I mean, we've put a lot of effort around disciplined government spending. You've got an Australia that's got a higher level of inflation, higher level of interest rates, no pathway to surplus for some foreseeable time, and very expensive housing costs. If you look at what we've done in New Zealand around housing affordability, it's coming. It's much more affordable to own here in New Zealand. Rents have come down. That's a positive thing on the cost of living, and you've also seen a really big progress on the social housing wait list as well. 6,000, 7,000 people now in homes. So, I think New Zealand, we've done the hard work, as I keep saying, fixing the basics so that we can build the future, and a lot of getting that thinking clean and straight and sequenced in the right way is actually what we do to set ourselves up for the long term.
Has your return to Waitangi made you look differently at your decision not to go?
No. Look, I've been
conversations you've been having with iwi leaders.
Look, I've been coming to Waitangi for some time. I came here when I was CEO of Air New Zealand. In fact, I came here with Jacinda Ardern in her first year here as Prime Minister as well. And I've also spent a lot of time here on the treaty grounds. I've also spent a lot of my former life investing in the museum and other things and supporting Māori development up here as well. So now I've got a lot of time for Waitangi. I love coming here. Actually, I really love it. But I've also felt, having gone with Bill English when he went to Ngāti Whātua in his first year as Prime Ministership, to somewhere else where the treaty had been signed, how special that can be too. And actually, last year at Akaroa I really enjoyed as well, and it was different, but an important part of the perspective of the total celebration of Waitangi Day across New Zealand. So certainly what happens here at Waitangi is really important. It's awesome to be here. I really love being here. But also I feel, and it doesn't preclude me in future years, I may continue to go around maybe every, and go to other places where it's been signed as well.
Have any of
Just
the...
some iwi leaders kind of characterised a bit of a pivot and a language change and the more willingness from you and your government to work with them a bit more closely. Is that an election year tactic? They said that you might be sweetening them up for some votes that you may have lost, through things like treaty principles.
No, as you and I have spoken before, Mani, I don't think all of you probably realise, but we've had a regular diet of engagements with iwi. Typically myself with 3 or 4 key ministers, either visiting iwi and talking through a strategic work plan of work that we want to do together, or I've been holding iwi leader meetings in my own office, and I've done that from day one. And so I know while there's been tension through challenges like the Treaty Principles Bill, irrespective of that, on the surface, we've continued the dialogue and the conversation underneath as well. And so the conversation that we had today is no different from the nature of the conversations that I've been having over the last 2 years, to be honest.
Have any of the conversations that you have had with iwi leaders today, or the kōrero that you've heard, made you think that the government needs to put up any more immediate response to help with the recovery from the storm efforts further than what you've done?
Well, we're going to go have another session on that today, and we've been in constant dialogue with iwi, and I'm actually very proud of the response. I really genuinely am. I hate the fact that these events happen and they cause pain and suffering to New Zealanders, but what we can control is our response to it, and the way that iwi, central government, local government, community have actually all worked together has been exceptional. It's been really exceptional. Marae have been the community hubs. We want to invest more in Marae being resilient. We started that program 2 years ago. We're going to continue to keep turbocharging that. Tama and I, we heard very clearly the need for housing. Within a matter of days, we had certainly of the $1 million $1,000,000. I think you had $700,000 out the door in 3 days to a number of marae and motorhomes going across the country. So the point of these conversations is they are conversations, and when we talk about partnership, it is a conversation. It's not set-piece meetings. It's actually a dialogue that happens dynamically that actually informs us, and we can respond more. So if there's more for us to do, absolutely. But generally the feedback's been pretty good.
And I might have missed it. Has the government decided whether it's going to have its own review into what happened at the mountain and the wider?
Yeah, look, I mean, as I said in that press conference last week, I think it's entirely appropriate that we take advice on a independent government review. And that's coming from my time spent with the families. I've met with a number of families. I met with some more on Friday last week actually as well after the vigil. And there's not a doubting of Tauranga City Council, but it's actually they want to make sure that it's truly independent. And I want to ensure that as well. So Chris Pink has asked for advice for that already.
You haven't seen that advice yet?
No, not in its full advice, not in its full form. And when we do that, like we did with the Tom Phillips investigation, an inquiry, it's getting the right type of inquiry, the right person to lead it or panel to lead it, and also the right terms of reference. And so. But whatever we do needs to plug into the coronial inquiry, it needs to plug into the WorkSafe inquiry and any review that Tauranga City Council may do as well. And there's very goodwill between the Mayor and the Council and us and our team as well. So we'll work together on that.
Why is there a much bigger security presence here this year? Like, way more police, there's 2 police drones in the air.
When were you last here, mate? There's always a pretty heavy security presence here.
That feels a bit more significant.
Yeah,
Does it?
way more police.
Oh, well, I haven't noticed.
You should flesh that out as a fact before you assert it.
Yeah,
well, I mean, I don't get security
the opposite
briefings
to be true?
from SIS and
No.
GCSB and police. That's why I'm asking.
I have no idea.
There's nothing that I've been briefed on that's any different from normal, and no, not at all. I'm not aware of that myself, but yeah.
All right, cool.
Marnie, you deserve a last question.
Oh, it was a cheeky one.
Okay.
Tama, are you gonna change your waiata tautohua pōpō from Te Aroha this time?
Te Aroha is a beautiful waiata.
Can I say he has done an outstanding job over the last 2 years. He has compulsory waiata training with our caucus.
Come on, time for a change.
and
election, yes. The
they do-
special
they're quite-
occasion.
Some quite talented
Minister,
voices in there.
Well, the good thing is that when we sing Te Aroha, we often sing the second verse
Yes,
from Wanganui, which is good that now the whole country knows that verse. So we're helping others
And
learn
you
as
know
well.
his relative wrote it, I think, is what he
Yes.
claims.
Michael
So,
Moore.
Okay, so that's a no.
yeah.
No, let's see. You'll find out tomorrow.
Have you got any takers? Any requests?
Any requests? Oh, I'll send you my request.
Okay.
I'll send
I'll
you
leave
the
it for my
playlist.
wife to
Great.
decide.
Yeah, I'll always leave it to the wife.
All right, team. Have a good
Well
day.
done.
See ya.
Thanks.